Welcome to the Cognitive Rampage podcast. I'm your host, Adam Lowery, as usual, and here I am, and I am excited about today's guest. It took some high-tech technology to line up today's guest, but the Jill Wheeler, as I've been referring to her this week, once I got excited when she was booked on the podcast, but she's awesome. Let me just say that. Okay. I mean, I could go on a very long descriptive, but first just go to jillwheeler.com. That'll explain everything else. But she's I'll give you the politically correct, right? She's a licensed mental health counselor. But I would tell you that she is an inspirer. She's a mover. She's a optimizer, a competence cultivator, someone who really cares about it. And, frankly, this is the first time we've met, but obviously I've vet people before they come on, and I look at how they talk, what they do, what they're involved with, and not to mention that her name was brought up multiple times by our guest, Andrew Moranti, who I love you, brother. Shout out to you. And we had to, her Wellfit Girls program was mentioned a few times, actually, I think in both podcasts, which is what she's the founder of. And I'll let her tell you more about that. Andrew has explained it on a few podcasts, but that's just the founder part. There's a story to everybody, and the story to Jill is inspiring from beginning to end the way I've seen it. And, I think she's just getting back from like traveling to a whole bunch of places, running a whole bunch of marathons. I don't know. So some kind of amazing athlete and mom, wife, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. But like I said, I'm excited to have her on. She's in the same field that I am as well. So it's always nice to talk to a colleague that I also see is not strapped into the regulations and conservative guidelines sometimes that are put down by this field. She's open, she's an optimizer, and she's joining us now. So hello, Jill. Welcome to the Cognitive Rampage podcast.
Thank you. It's so great to be here with you. Even though I'm so far away, I feel like kindred spirits. We're right here sharing a cup of coffee, maybe some ginger lemon Nepali tea even.
Oh man, I would trade you. I got some decent caveman coffee with a little MCT oil in it to keep me going. I figure I gotta keep up with you. And you know what? There's something resonate in my head, just to let you know how transparent this podcast is. When I did your introduction at the very end there, when I said welcome to the Cognitive Rant, I almost vomited after I said that, because I sounded like one of those damn radio guys, like, with that freaking voice. Jill, I've been working months and months on trying to get rid of the "hi, welcome to the I sound like a stripper DJ guy. This isn't what I really talk like, but welcome to the show." Oh, it was annoying. I heard myself at the end. I go, "Hi, Jill, welcome to the Cognitive Rampage podcast." Jesus.
Okay, well, let's put it this way, and this is going to be really real. I've been traveling for almost 6 months, the world, and I haven't literally spoken to very many Americans. So just hearing your voice as an American is very comforting and feels like home. So how's that for some perspective? We have seen very few Americans on this world journey. So I didn't hear anything but, yay, we're family. So let's go from there.
Oh, what a cool perspective. So many people don't understand. I'm trying to fathom really what that's like, not being able to communicate in the tongue that you were brought up in and being out. So, I mean, if you want to start there, take me on this world travel. Where'd you push it? I'm going to give you the mic so I don't go all ADHD on you and rant all hypomanic caffeine induced. Okay.
I think that our pace will work really well together. And some of my favorite podcasts are the ones that are just, batting back and forth. So let's put it this way. A couple of things. You said competence cultivator and optimizer, and those two words really captured the spirit of what I do and also the spirit of what you do, and really resonating with that. So I've worked really hard over the last 5+6 years in getting back to my roots as a mental health counselor and leader, facilitator, coach in people's lives as an individual clinician, as a personal coach and therapist, and also as a group facilitator. So leaving on this journey was a huge well, a mission and also a journey, because I felt in a lot of ways I was leaving my people, leaving the tribe that I worked so many years and nurture. And yet along the way, every experience, every turn, every bend in the journey has just supported the greater vision for this world travel. You know, supporting it, honoring it, and even creating the pathway in a more profound way. The learning, the people I've met, the clarity that I've actually revealed along the way, that I am on the right path. I haven't left anybody, that I'm only getting more and more connected to my journey as a healer and a leader. So that has been hugely revealing as I travel the world and feeling more and more at home, even though I'm far away from our country. Learning a lot about our role in the world as Americans, the responsibility we have as leaders and also as healers. And so I've read a little bit about what you're doing and what you're up to, and it's just incredible I could be this far away and our paths have crossed, because it's really it's no accident. Because the world needs people who are really willing to heal and lead and not medicate and quiet or pacify.
You, girl, keep going. I mean, it's difficult. I'm losing you a little bit because you're in Kathmandu. So, but what I found out is, although you may sound transformer to myself in and out, and but when it comes out to the viewers and when we come out final on the podcast, it'll actually all be smooth. So it's really the video that'll hesitate behind a little bit. So I'm doing my best to catch most of what you're putting down, and that came through. I'm just forewarning you. Also, I may, if I throw you one of these, like a little timeout, I'll let you know that I've lost you, and then I'll give you like this to let you keep going.
Great. Yeah, that's good to know you really well and clearly. And just so you know, I know you've met with Andrew, who's a part of the team with Wellfit Girls, and a lot of times twice a week. And it has been such a challenge, privilege, and an honor to still be running my nonprofit halfway around the world. It'll be 1 a.m. my time. I've met anywhere from 11 to 5 in the morning every time in between. Their time is the normal time, in Florida and Southwest Florida. So the beauty of being able to stay connected and committed, still spend the time with my family, and listen, do, and have it all. And we're not taught that in graduate school. We're not taught that in elementary school. We're not taught that in secondary school, right? We're not taught that in undergrad. I was not. I'll speak for myself. Were you?
No, they don't teach the awareness class.
and the class of really truly follow your heart, your longing, your passion.
Yeah, I think I'm struggle. I can't even act like that I got everything that you said. So I am doing my best to play off all of it, because I know it came through on the other end of people listening. Yeah, so it's people watching or listening are live and the podcast recording. But Jill, I'm needing some universe help here as you're coming through. I'm all I get are these beautiful words like inspire, travel, world, meeting people, right? This is what I'm getting. And so I'm trying to piece together the abstract the best I can.
Okay, so you're having a hard time actually hearing, being in Kathmandu.
Yes, and for those watching and listening, the reason we're struggling here is the Kathmandu is where we're trying to reach internet service in between. So, yeah, I want to be able to rewind and hear everything that you said again, which I'll be able to when we air the podcast and this is up. I'm going to be able to hear it loud and clear. It'll be beautiful. except I get to be the one left in the dark to beautiful keywords.
Got it. Okay. Well, I think the main point is, work I wanted to do was working as a leader. I made a documentary about a year ago. 16 months ago.
Jill, I've lost you. I can't hear you. I'm wondering if there's another location perhaps you could find that may bring in signal. I'm not sure. We're definitely full and our bandwidth's definitely available. I've lost you completely, but you got a froze screen and all. You can easily sign out of this and sign back in the same way you did if you'd like to try to reconnect. Sometimes that does help to reestablish. There you go. Jill is I'm terribly sorry for those watching, and as I know she is too. But you know what? I'm going to take what's happening as maybe there's a message there that needs to get out, right? And we have to attempt, right? We have to keep pushing past sometimes when we're uncomfortable, when we're agitated, right? You have to drive to work, even though you know it's bumper to bumper traffic, right? So a lot of the times when you go through this, I'm just going to take this as a sign that there's a message Jill is saying is powerful, right? And I mean, look, you got to find the silver lining, right? I'm not trying to be all oogie boogie on you, but you got to be real about it, right? So, I'm not in a rush for time today. I'm not sure if Jill is. It looks like she's signing back on, and yeah, okay, so she's probably will jump in any minute, but I'm not in a rush. I want to talk to her as long as we can today. I set time aside to be able to do so today. So I know a lot of you are at work or in between or almost on lunch break, etc. But uh, you know, bear with us as I got to do a one quick invite from here to redo it. Sorry, that's what we got to do. But stick with us if you can or tune in. We'll edit some of this stuff live and on YouTube, but the podcast itself is always going to be edited down to um, the show itself, what we're looking for and what we want to put together. Not me rambling in between. There she is, as she has joined us again. It'll probably be a couple seconds and she'll be back. But I bet Jill is going to have no problem reestablishing her cognitive rampage to bring that to you. Just unmute your mic there, Jill, at the top, and you'll be able to sign.
I'm back.
There she is. Hey, no worry. I love the fillers and the go-betweens.
Yeah.
Well, you get me a chance. You allow me a chance to practice what I preach, which is finding the silver lining in anything that's happening. And so I'm going to take it as if there's a message out there that you got to get out that for some reason is wanting to distort it in a possibility. But we have to keep trying when we're frustrated, right? People still drive to work Monday morning knowing it's bumper to bumper traffic. They do it anyway. So this is what we got to do. We got to sit on technology from Kathmandu to Orlando. And I mean that literally. And drive to work until
You look so good right now. You look totally clear.
Yeah, you came in great. The connection looks much beautiful. Like you're not pixelated anymore.
Yes.
So you see, people keep pushing, and I'm going to see if I can. Not that she needs it, but I'm going to see if I can rattle you back up again to what we had introed and what we talked about. And you were talking about journeying around the world and this little adventure you just went on, and realizing what it felt like possibly leaving people behind that you have managed, that you have grouped, that you've worked with, that you've loved and cultivated self with and power with, and then you've kind of taken them with you, and you were meeting people unlike yourself. That's where you were going, and you had led that into getting back to the roots of what you do and not necessarily academia.
Yes, I love that. You know what? Something has rung through my head my whole life, and that was something from my mother. And I love my mama. I love her. She lives in Southwest Florida, and she knows I say this. I blog about it. I write about it. And something she'd say to me is, as a kid, always, that's not reality. It's not reality. It's not reality. The way I lived my life, even as a kid and as a teenager, was too big and bold for the confines of my family. Still is. And what was not reality was leaving my practice, successful practice, nice little family, you know, the American dream. It's not reality to leave all that and go travel. It wasn't reality for me to be a mountain guide in my 20s. It wasn't reality for me to leave everything and go move to Costa Rica and teach surfing for 8 months. Nothing I did was a reality, except for the fact that I was doing it and I was living it. And I had this faith as a very young age, probably around 14. And I say this in the documentary that I made, Warrior One, which Andrew might have talked about. I say I knew I wanted to be a therapist from the time I was 14. I just knew. And I never felt I was understood by my family. And I really still have the stork mentality that I was dropped off into the wrong family. And I have a twin sister, which makes it even more interesting because she fits right in.
Yeah, well, that's interesting in a lot of ways. Psychologically, the needing to be different, the needing to exchange beyond, whether it's look different, be different, or escape something that seems to reflect ourselves. Either way, it's powerful in all of its sense, man. Yeah, you got me cheesing. What I'm trying to do is not cut in so much so it doesn't have to go back and forth and we don't lose. I'm just so excited we have connection. So I'm like, I'm not moving. I'm not saying anything.
I love that. I love the back and forth, but I hear you. And so back then I knew I was different, and it wasn't the need to be different. It was just there. It was dynamic. And so, you know, there was this sense of do the right thing, you know, check off the boxes. And I knew that there was always there was a little bit of fear around the back of my mind, this isn't reality. How am I really going to make this work based on the childhood messages? I also knew everything led on the path if I was super passionate and connected to what I was doing. And I only did things I was super connected and passionate about doing my whole life.
Would you say, I mean, you say, well, look, we talk about athletes, right? Being born with it, right? Whatever it is. And I've researched it, if you will. And people have called it beliefs. People have called it genetic. People have called it many things, spiritual, whatever. And how you talk about it, do I believe you 100%? I mean, I can see it in you. And so that passion to have it, what do you think? What's you're insightful. So what do you think? Do you think the opposition, what do you think really cultivate that from an epigenetic level from a young age?
That's a really good question. My father was a force in my life, and he's still to this day probably my biggest nemesis. He's the only person that I feel has never really, when he saw my movie, finally, the man cried, and he was genuinely proud. He brought 22 of his closest friends to it, and it was bold. I mean, the things that I reveal in my documentary are pretty bold and uncomfortable.
Shout out the documentary a little way.
It's called Warrior One, and it's not online yet, but it will be soon. You can check out our website, warrior1movie.com, to learn a little bit more about it. And it's a great journey. It's a hero's journey for our girls who are involved in my nonprofit. They are the motivation. My own struggle was the inspiration to tell the story. So my father was a very rugged, self-made Greek man. And, you know, he wanted better for his daughters, but it wasn't so much opposition. It was this fierceness I had, this tenacity. Even as a child, I was the only one that could make the man stand up from the dinner table and leave. You know, I was the only one that made the man cry. Even, I've never seen the man cry. I'm the only one that's ever made the man cry. And it wasn't out of spite. It was like misdirected tenacity, even as a child. Like, it was never enough.
where were you when I was a kid, when somebody was in the office trying to help me out, and where was the psychologist or the school counselor going, listen, this is misplaced tenacity. I love that. I got to ask you, I've been reading some things, some posts, on social media, and so quick are kids these days to be, labeled as outside the spectrum,
Yes.
abnormal, etc. And sometimes even violent behaviors, even emotional, right? And because of that rigid system or that processing, if they don't cookie cutter form into it, these kids are beaten and shaped. And I wonder, like you, if the misguided tenacity was actually shaped and cultivated. I mean, do you see that? What's your thoughts? I mean, do you see that more or less? I mean,
Yeah, it's around creativity and around freedom to express. And I think there's so much, and it was with my parents. It wasn't out of, they thought it was awesome. I really truly believe they thought it was amazing of a kid, as a kid, and of my potential. But it was so much energy that that didn't fit in. Okay, there's a couple things, and I don't want to veer off too much. Really, it's around fear. So for all these kids that we're facing, it's fear of too much, fear of not enough, fear of fitting in. And I'm not talking about the kids, I'm talking about the parents and their projections on the kids, right? So my parents didn't think I was a bad kid at all. It was just they wanted me to fit in to a norm that would be super successful and highly acceptable by society. That was going to be easy. That life was just going to be, well, it ends up being cookie cutter. It's like the American dream. And my parents had that, not from a fundamental education standpoint, but from a financial standpoint. My dad was successful only because he worked his butt off. And the interesting thing when you talk about how did I get this, like nothing was enough, my dad's a bit like that. And it's interesting because my dad is an atheist. So I was raised very unindoctrinated, and that does have a lot to do. And I attribute my creativity and my willingness to be unconventional with my psychotherapy because of the lack of indoctrination as a child, which is great. But there's also some structures I had to put in place as an adult because I didn't have this sense of belonging that a lot of kids do growing up. I had an interesting childhood because I was homeschooled a lot of my childhood, and I grew up on a boat. So I didn't go to school for a full year at a time for about 8 years of my childhood. And I missed a lot of, the sort of the schoolyard socialization.
yeah,
So I,
hear
and
a lot
in
of
many,
you hear a lot of people talk about that, about homeschooling, the fear of losing that. So you truly faced that. You saw that desocialization, if you will, experience.
yeah, which was great in that, hey, I'm traveling around the world and I'm actually somewhat comfortable with it. And it was also a challenge through my high school years when we finally were in school, and I'd missed a lot of, I couldn't sit and study for hours at a time. I literally couldn't sit and do that. I could not. And thankfully I had a photographic memory, and that really helped out a lot. My twin sister did not. It was a major challenge.
It's not natural. I mean, I argue the school system setting like crazy, and I don't like, and we don't got to go down this tangent, but I mean, it's not natural to force a child to spend 8 hours and just doing that and shoving. I mean, there's too many studies out that prove that kids will self-taught, they will self-teach. If given the tools, the routes, and the paths, and the opportunities and inspiration, they will follow those interests naturally, almost like you did.
Well, I think you're right. That's the key word. There's inspiration. And the school system, as it is in many cases, is not inspirational, right? And it's not just I'm sorry, it's not just our nation. It's even worse in other countries. In fact, when I was in Fiji, I learned a lot about the school system there. And it's a lot of learning by rote. It's super uninspiring. It's very conforming. So we're not even the worst out there, believe it or not. It's very boring. It's very uninspiring. And yet, I think the seed, when you ask about where I got this, even though my parents are really conservative and they wanted quote unquote better for us, we were raised really free thinking, unindoctrinated. And so I think that's given me a little bit more courage to create something that is not the typical psychotherapy. And what I love about you, and I was learning because I was doing my research back, is your willingness to be real with who you are as a leader in mental health, as a facilitator in people's personal growth. And that's where I see myself. I don't see myself as a counselor or a therapist, more so as a facilitator of people's life vision, goals, and experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna you drive me. Woo, go on them rampages. I love it. Going back to talking about the influence of the education system and that modeling of teaching and inspiration, like you said, I like that word because knowledge, competence, experience. These things are what grow our confidence, is what grows our enthusiasms and bursts our passions open. And if you can't inspire a generation to be excited to learn something or go into something, then I think you're right. Well, I think we've truly lost the battle of education, of what it really is, of what competence is and experience.
I love what you just said about competence, and this is talking about education. I had a major, it was at the time, it felt like a breakdown, but it ended up being a breakthrough in college. After 2 years, I wanted to really please my parents. I went to a really highly regarded New England liberal arts school up in Maine. I grew up, like I said, I grew up on a boat, so I'd never had a winter until I was in high school. And I really wanted to prove that I was hardcore, which I guess this was the beginning of my rock climbing and mountaineering experience in life. And it was good training, but it was cold and I really hated it. So after 2 years, I studied abroad and I came home and I was very depressed and I had to tell my parents I'm not going back to Maine. I didn't relate to the culture there. I was pre-med and psychology double major. Hated the pre-med. It was super competitive, not nice people. I wanted more of an ecology focus as well as the psychology. And I found a school in Arizona called Prescott College. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it is an incredibly inspiring college, and it's a holistic college. And what you get, you're not going to believe this, what you just said about competence. We're not just talking about education. We're talking about a feeling of leaving high school or leaving college and feeling competent, right? Feeling like confident to move forward through life as a whole person, right? Educating the whole person. So Prescott College, you don't get a major and a minor. You get a competence and a breadth. Like the breadth of information, the breadth of knowledge is your minor and the competence is your major. And you have to prove that. And when I went to write the current curriculum I used for my nonprofit, which is Wellfit Girls, the organization that I started, it's a leadership program. It's a 5-month leadership program starting now with teen girls. We're in our 3rd year. I've got a team of leaders running the program in Southwest Florida. I used all the foundational work I used was from my undergraduate thesis work. And I'd already been to graduate school, and still, because I had to prove a competence, I'm still 15 years later using that work.
Well, I think the education entry and all, it's starting to shake up. You're seeing new types of universities, if you will, open up. There's all kinds of different schooling, even online stuff, from the Great Lessons and Creative Live to TED Talks. I've seen some universities talking about opening up, like Renegade University. I forget the doctor's name. I have to reference him, but he's a professor. You see a lot of professors leaving almost that modern academia of, finding new ways to cultivate competence and knowledge. And there's new ways to do so. And I'm going to back up to something, a thought that you dropped in my head when you talked about how you weren't raised in a doctrine or a structure and left to be open and creative. And a lot of people that are raised in the doctrine and et cetera are, well, they do it almost right to provide the, so you're not afraid, right? Here's a way not to be afraid, but in a sense, it almost creates stagnation of the blossoming of the natural person. And it seems as if it worked the opposite, in you. Is almost it created that expression of you. The more it tried to hold you down, the more it broke you out, and you follow that path all the way through.
Yeah, and I think that there were times I really believe a big of the healing process, and even before healing, is actually the trauma process for a lot of people is a sense of not belonging. And one of the foundations of human needs, one of the basic human needs, is a sense of belonging, right? From everywhere from primitive villages and tribes to world religion and political parties, right? People want a sense of like, I look like you, I sound like you, we belong, we get each other, you've got my back, right? So I don't feel like I had that most of my childhood, and I struggled with being alone, in that I didn't have, say, a religion or a particular affiliation. Yet what it did was it created more reliance, not only on myself, but on developing a strong sense of leadership. And that's all I can say is, honoring the individuals in my program. There's no set manifesto. I have a set of guidelines, I have goals and a mission for the program, but every girl that comes through my program I see as an individual, and I want to honor and acknowledge her individual path as a leader. And that is possible. It is truly possible. It's a little bit harder and it takes a little bit longer, but that is the type of immersion leadership that I'm creating with the psychotherapy that I practice, as well as the group leadership. That there's not a cookie cutter one approach.
I would agree. And the system speaks to this. Even the 12-step program, for one, is a one-size-fits-all example. I mean, there's tons of one-size-fits-all examples, which we know is not how but they teach you, right, to treat the individual, right? So I couldn't agree with you more on treating the individual. You said something interesting about the trauma process and how the trauma process creates, the new. I talk about in my book that destruction is bad, but it also breeds creation. And that trauma process that you spoke to is almost a necessary, to blossom forward in a life. And I thought that trauma process, pointing that out, was interesting to me. Oh
yeah.
Sorry. The last part is how the darkness, really, the trauma that we go through, actually creates the person that we are, is almost what we should appreciate most, it seems.
Oh my God, you hit it hard. When I was leaving, and this was a pivotal point in my process as a therapist, but also as a human being, when I had to tell my parents that I wasn't going back to this school, that I was in a super, super dark place. I mean, it was like the dark before the dawn. I was done. Like all I had this vision of at the time, the only thing that got me through was I have to serve something beyond myself. That's the only thing that I could put words to at the time. Was there something greater for my purpose on this planet, right? But in the moment, it was this dark cloud of, I'm going to let my parents down. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know that this isn't working right now. And after that was several months, was the brightest time of my life. The darkest, followed by the most creative. That's when I committed. Like, how do you tell your parents, I'm leaving one of the most prestigious colleges in the entire country, and I'm moving to Arizona to be a rock climber? Like, I just knew that's what I was going to do. And I did continue with school, but the main focus was I wanted to be an outdoor leader and an outdoor educator. And I remember coming home after a good year of doing it and being really damn good at it. Like it was something I was incredible at. And my dad's still saying, so when are you going to get a real job? You know, and I had a real job, and I'd already graduated from college. So I'd been, you know, leading for the Colorado Outward Bound School, which is world renowned. I mean, Outward Bound as a leadership program is renowned. And I still use a lot of the tenets and the fundamentals in my practice today from that. But I'll still never forget, he said, when are you going to get a real job? And, you know, I had to, at that point, individuate, you know, and some people individuate from their parents in their teens. Some are still doing it in their 20s. Some still 40s. Look, I'm in Nepal right now. Marriage is still arranged by highly educated and governmental officials. 90% of marriages in this country are still arranged.
Wow, I
Right?
did not know that.
Yes.
My God. I mean, I'm flooded with documentaries from Vice and Viceland and all over. You know, you get all these crazy, terrible statistics, but some stats like that just slip through, right? Like, man, 90% in Kathmandu is arranged marriages still.
And in all of Nepal, yes. And I say that in that we're still, as humans, individuating from our parents at various stages and ages in our lives, you know? And for me, I remember so clearly in my 20s, and then I took advantage of it because then my dad said, get a real job. I'll pay for you to go to graduate school. And I said, okay. He said, you'll apply now? I said, sure. And he paid for everything. So it ended up working out for me. But, you know, I took, as a family friend growing up said, take the cookies when they're passed. And I took those cookies when they were passed. And,
Is that going to be the quote I'm going to have to write on the cave wall in here?
Take the cookies when they're passed. I tell my kids that all the time, you know, and they don't get it yet, but I'm like, you're getting offered this now. Take the cookies while they're passed. They may not come by again.
That's good. I may really have to write that on the cave wall. I'm gonna bring you back because I love it. I had to find my notepad because I came in here and the marker died on me. My paper ran out. My pen is dead. And so I tried to write with it. I'm going, I can't keep up. I'm looking around for things to write. I'm like, can I prick my finger and start writing in blood here? You know, you talked about the idea, you were mentioning competence and seeking that. And
yeah.
the notion that was coming up in your life. Did you see it as chasing competence or chasing experience, or was it chasing self-competence through experience to kind of find yourself? You're welcome.
You know, the concept of never crossed my mind until I went to Prescott College. And it was so interesting because I never trusted just good feelings because I felt like I had to work. I came from a hardworking family background, and if it wasn't hardworking, then it wasn't worthy. So for many, many years, even to this day, I've had a lot of guilty feelings on this trip. Like I shouldn't just be enjoying my life. I have to be working harder or serving others. So I still struggle with competence as just being good enough. Like I think this is really important as a psychology. And I can't wait to read your books is, you know, being good enough as versus competence versus excelling. You know, at what point is it just, you know, we're messing with our mind and just being in self-acceptance? The basis is, you know, I've been traveling through Buddhist countries for the past 3 months, and I'm actually in the middle of writing my recent blog, my most current blog, around the lifestyle of Buddhism, because Buddhism saved my life in my early 20s. Not only the concept of it, but the very simple mantra of just a few words of wisdom, right? Just a few words would actually get me through days, let alone competence. I wasn't even thinking of being great at anything. I was just wanting to get through the day, right? And so I think that we put too much pressure on ourselves to be great at things versus just self-accepting. This is where we are today, and knowing that there's tomorrow to get better, or there's tomorrow to do more, but still being in the present of self-acceptance, honoring, and self-love. I don't know if that makes sense.
100. It's like I actually reference, there's a line I'm very proud of in the book, actually. I can't do it now. I'll screw it up. But eventually what I say is this: you got to beware of there's a fine line between self-acceptance and apathy, and beware of indifference disguised as acceptance or something. I can't remember. I told you I butcher it. But many people were pushed this notion of, hey, be happy with yourself, love yourself, and self-acceptance. And many times self-acceptance is really just a mask for apathy or indifference to care. And, why people either let themselves go or get sick or, stop pushing forward. And I think many times people forget, which is you talked about three things that I push very heavily. The idea of, self-acceptance. Oh man, you threw me off. I remembered all three things. Bring me back, Jill. I got off left field.
Confidence, acceptance.
Come on, feed me.
Oh, I'm getting a delay here. Are you experiencing that?
No, we're good. Let's see.
I might have to call you back.
No, I got you. You're good.
You do? Okay. And
acceptance described by apathy, and then we get indifferent. Oh my God. Oh, you were talking about doing great things and many times and excelling past it. And the point I think people forget,
exactly.
yeah, I sell it a lot, that you can be happy in the now while still optimizing for better. But people draw this thick fucking line between self-acceptance and going, no, I'm happy with me, I don't need to optimize anything, and going, if you're trying to optimize, just be happy with you.
Yeah. Wait, can you hear me? Okay, there's also this idea that we can't be happy until we have achieved something outside or something in the future. And that's the balance that I'm talking about, is also having this, and from a very Buddhist perspective, having this self-acceptance with what is right now without trying to fix, fade, hide it, optimize it, even in the moment of just being with that and letting the wisdom of that experience impact your present moment and inspire the future. And that's kind of where this journey has been so powerful, because I drove hard for about 5 years while I lived in Naples. We were kind of neighbors, actually. And yeah, and so I had Wellfit Institute, which I started, which has been incredibly successful. Staycation adventures in the Everglades, on the water, leading expeditions outside of the country, kite surfing, which has been the most incredible release, physical, spiritual, mental release in the world. And so just knowing that being on this journey is enough sometimes, and not having to prove it, fix it, fade it, hide it to anybody,
Yeah, just
hide the struggle, to fix yourself, make yourself better. I mean, it's the self-help, conundrum, is we're in the world, like nothing's always been good. That's another thing. Talk about two things my mom used to say. That's not reality. And you know what the other thing is nothing's ever good enough for you. That's God. I was like, if I heard that a million times, right?
Go, girl.
Which is kind of good.
Rampaging, man.
It's kind of good. It's kind of good, because it's made me be like, well, nothing's good enough. I'm going to drive harder and I'm going to achieve more. And it made me, the badass climber that it was. It made me super competitive. It made me run hard. It made me do all these incredible things: rock climb, mountaineer, kite surf, run marathons. And honestly, there's also that piece of humility, is sitting in peace and literally not having to tell anybody a goddamn thing about the 5 amazing things I did today. And it's been a journey, like being on this trip and not having to explain, share or promote. I love this. You're going to love this. I was at this advanced yoga training a couple of years ago, and this woman, oh man, I wish I remembered her name. She's a teacher in Texas. And I went to her workshop, and she said 3 things before she teaches, and we could all use this. She said before she teaches, she says, I have nothing to promote. I have nothing to fear, and I have nothing to defend. So she always comes into class with this 3 mantra. I have nothing to promote. I don't have to prove myself. Just being here is good enough. I have nothing to defend. Like I'm honest, I'm good as I am, and I have nothing to fear. Like the world isn't out to get me.
Yeah, Mike Williams, Mike the Messenger comes on. He's an educational consultant. He talks to teachers about that, about not posturing, about coming in or forcing beliefs and being. I love that. He's going to listen to this, and he's probably going to use that. So that's beautiful. I like that. And I got a question to ask you is, have you seen the movie Legends of the Fall?
Oh my God, it's one of my favorite movies. Yes.
All right. So I can use the reference about quieting the bear inside. And so if you've heard the bear since you were 14 and young and calling you like that, and you're out to quiet it, one, have you quieted the bear as you talked about in your 20s with Buddhism and being accepting in the now while optimizing? Have you quieted that? And if you have, or do you just manage it? Where are you now with that bear, that voice, and how did you get where you are with that?
It's a really good question. Yeah, okay. And there's not a whole lot that makes me speechless or pause. So good on you for that one. Yeah, I see you dancing, dancing.
I'm shadow boxing, man. I'm getting in there. I'm getting in the psyche.
Okay, I get it. I see. You're a little pixelated.
Oh, my mentor down there in Leo D'Anibal, shout out to him. He made me everything I am as a therapist, and he is just. He used to teach me. He goes, Adam, you got talent, you got skills, but the problem is you kick in the front door every time. And I was kind of like, damn. And his always in the back of my mind. I quote him 10 times in my book, but he always goes, Adam, learn to go in the back window. It's much easier, quieter, and less confrontational. And so I've been trying and stressing to get I'll never be as good as him, I don't think, but to get in that back window. And when I can get something like Jill, hey man, for me, that's like killing 6 marathons in 6 countries. You know what I mean?
Oh, sweet. This leaving the country was a big move for me. I think the honest, be super honest, the one, and I would almost say it was like the lie that kind of keeps following you, the lie that something's going to come out and get you, whether it be the boogeyman or the grizzly bear or, your enemy that you've personified that really isn't there. It's this idea of being selfish and living a truly authentic life that is true to thyself, yet not selfish. So that's a belief I had growing up, that I didn't want to be selfish. I needed to serve and honor my parents, yet they felt like I was selfish because, again, I was the outsider of my family. My twin sister's very much still close to the cuff. She's very much in alignment with them ideologically, and I've gone off. So for me, taming that bear is saying, my passion will lead me to the greatest good and the most authentic service in the world, because it's connected to a deep, unacculturated, unindoctrinated way of being.
Yes, that is a beautiful answer. Wow, well put. I love wow. I thank God that's recorded because now we can go back and look at what you said there. I know I will. I'm probably going to pull that snippet out and post the podcast with that as the response to something because that's true. I mean, elaborate
And I
more.
think, okay, yeah, okay. So what this image? So I see things in pictures, and so the turning. I've had many turning points in my life with this, and one of them was I was climbing a big wall in Yosemite, and it was the first big wall I did. And a big wall in Yosemite rock climbing means you're spending days on the vertical, right? Not, how many? What is the percentage of rock climbers in the world? I don't know, 5%.
You're
So then you
dangling.
take
I mean, you're dangling in one of those sugar glider nests. So
Y-
up there.
yeah, like a portaledge. So then you take the of the rock climbers, you take the big wall climbers, right? And this was my first big wall, and I lived in Santa Cruz, California.
I had
And
a
this is
I had one
way
on I had one on yesterday. I had a big wall climber on yesterday.
who?
He's actually also a Oscar award winning visual director or visual effects supervisor for tons of movies, Transformers, Fast and the Furious, all those things. Lance Ranzer.
Oh, nice! I can't wait to listen to that one.
Yeah,
Well,
we haven't put it out yet, so he's gonna come after you. But sorry to interrupt. This is
I'm
cool.
super excited. Yeah, that's great. Well, I was in Yosemite, and anyway, this was well before cell phones, and I didn't tell my parents I was going, and I was still connected again. Like I said, probably not super individuated, even though I was in my 20s and literally living across the country. I still wanted to make them proud. I didn't want to scare them, so I didn't tell them. But we got benighted, so we didn't end up coming down that night. And a friend of mine who didn't understand the world of big wall climbing, a day or two off schedule back then was nothing. You didn't call home for that. Well, she called home for that, and she scared the pants out of my mom. And I remember that phone call. How could you be so selfish? That was the word. And it was crushing at the time. I was 23 years old because I was living on my own. I was supporting myself. I graduated from college. I had a dream job, and I was the happiest I'd ever been in my life. To climb big walls, I found an who guided me. He was like a mentor. He's a good friend of mine. He took me climbing. It was my birthday. I think I turned 24 that year. And I just was on top of the world, literally in Yosemite. It doesn't get any better than that. And I got the crushing blow of you're selfish. When you grow up, this isn't real. And that cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, we have viewership coming on pretty heavy. So give it a second, let it reset. Give me a thumbs
Okay,
up.
got it.
Put your thumbs up if you can hear me pretty clear without hesitation. And if I can see your thumbs up, all right, good. Then you should be back clear. Sorry, Jill. We got a lot of that. It was, but I cut you off because we were just about to lose you, but we got a lot of that definitely.
Okay.
Well, you were talking about the idea of being penetrated with that word selfish. Forgive that word, but we really are. Our spirits, our souls, we're inundated with don't be selfish.
Yeah, yeah. But the turning point for me is in truly following the that inner voice and the authentic, I call it authentic leadership, and that's what I guide through in my groups, and I know you do group work as well. I love, who I love? Araya Mountain Dreamer. She says, can you betray others to truly be true to yourself? And I'm, not saying the exact quote is, can you be ultimately true to yourself by betraying others? And by betraying others, she means not just saying what they want to hear, is saying, hey, that's not my truth. I'm going to betray your truth. It's not my truth to be true to myself. And you know what? I'm an unorthodox type of clinician. I have a blog. I have a public presence on social media and Facebook. And I was not trained that way. I was trained in a very I went to a very unconventional undergrad, like I told you, at Prescott College. It was a holistic program. It was incredible. You had to prove your breadth and competence. Like I said, you didn't just get to check off the boxes and get your degree. But then I chose to go to a more traditional and well-respected graduate program. And we were not allowed to have personal interactions with our clients. You know, that's unorthodox. It's not the way we do it. You know, you don't have a Facebook page.
No, you got to be hands off, right? You got to be so far off of that. But you bring up such a deep paradox with that idea, though. That idea of serving others, people are feel, is a value or something we're called to, and then this idea of also fulfilling your authentic self of who you are. And so much, though. I mean, God, you got me pondering the paradox even more so about. Can we truly be authentic to ourselves when we're serving others and their interests are supposed to be?
Yeah, well, I think that there is. Yeah, I think that we can. And that what I found, honestly, through this journey with around the world, hashtag Wheelers round the world, is the first thing I've done. Really, that scared the shit out of me out of the last 4 or 5 years. Creating my own business, yes, there was a lot of work and there was some fear and there was risk, but leaving and being primarily a mother and a wife has been the scariest thing for me. Traveling the world, great, awesome. I love trying new foods. We're kite surfing everywhere we go. We're trekking. We're climbing, all these great things. But truly showing up every day as a mother and a wife was really scary. And not natural for me.
Scarier than dangling off a cliff on a freaking
way scarier. Because again, you know what was I facing most is the big S word. Selfish. Yeah. Because I was afraid that I was going to have to face that on a regular basis. Like, get me out of here. You know, it's too much being needed. It's too much of immersion. It's too much melting our needs, you know, like, and what I found is staying really true to our needs is inspiring to others. It hasn't been a clash. Even with my clients, I have people following me now who I'm inspiring more than I did when I was in practice, because I'm actually living what seems the impossible and authentically, and it's having more of an impact than what I was doing inside the office.
Doing it how we're told we're supposed to do it. Thank you. Which is, who are we as practitioners to tell people to step out of the supposed tos in their own life, but yet have to practice in our own profession of helping other people within borderlines of control. You know, so, you know, you talked about earlier your mom, I believe, mentioning the word reality and throwing that word around, that there's, you know, don't you know reality? I think we've talked about two heavy words here, reality and selfish. And people would tell you that if you go off on your own to follow what you believe, love, and want to live, well, then you are then following selfishly your own life. And I mean, that's true. So, I mean, selfish is such a big deal of, I think, you know, keeping people down away from who they are, you know, and breaking out of those borders. These are two huge words that, you know, we're throwing around, I think.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? I need to plug in. I'm just realizing
No worries.
I'm burning through. Can we hold for 1 sec?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll run through all this. No worries. I like filling in.
1 sec.
Yeah. You know, I've noticed over the last couple of shows that I've done, I'm probably purposefully doing it, I don't know, but the more I talk to people and hear about their lives, I can start to connect. I find ways to connect their young childhood days, and then kind of how they come up through their 20s, and then can see almost how that makes them who they are at the present moment. You know, I don't like to say people are who they are. I think we always change. So I think Jill's been aware of that change, and that, you know, that self-competence and chasing it, you know, and chasing that voice. And I'd ask you out there to ponder what we're talking about. I mean, is it about serving others only? You know, is it about following your own desires? Is that selfish to do so? I mean, you know, I'm going to bring up a point when she gets back about the idea of selfish that a lot of people talk about, where if you talk to someone and they tell you, I don't want to have kids, what's someone's first response to that? Oh, how selfish of you, right? As if there's a lack of people right now on the planet and we're not looking out for our species by not wanting to breed. So when I hear people talk like that, that's another time where that word selfish is thrown around, to where you say, oh, you're not going to have a kid. How selfish. Oh, you're going to go travel the world on your own and leave your paycheck behind. How selfish. And, you know, I've been elaborating on the selfish word for a while, and I brought up a point to where I faced it a few times, even to where you talk to someone, and if they tell you, hey, you know, I just really don't want to have kids or get married, the first response to that is, well, how selfish are you? As if there's a shortage of people population here and we're not looking out for our kind. And, you know, even that is greeted with that selfish confrontation of, how dare you not do what I do? But, you know, Jill, could it be that maybe this society in particular, not for around the world speaking, but our values or who we are is, you know, so many things other than us are trying to convince us who we are, what we're supposed to be. And so through all that, we get chopped up in what is supposed to be, and we chase those ideas almost to death, really.
Well, yeah, I definitely think, oh gosh, there's a horrible echo.
Mute your mic,
Um,
unmute it if it's echoing. Oh, it has.
okay, is that better?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's better. Okay, so yes, I absolutely think that again, it goes back to some indoctrination and what is stifling. And I'll speak specifically to the population that I work with a lot, which is teen girls, and this could relate to all populations. But what we're seeing is people are waiting. A lot of teens, especially teens, kids, and even young adults are waiting, pausing before they speak and act authentically, because they're waiting for what they should say and waiting for what they should do. And it could be based on, you know, whatever social norms that they grew up with, family expectations, cultural expectations. Now, I would say, and I've traveled for many, many years, even before this journey. But what's unique about this journey, and I'm taking it now around the world consecutively, and anybody who's done a very intensive around the world trip, and I'm not talking about, you know, within a couple months, I'm saying taking a year to do something like this, you can see cultures, you can compare and contrast them as you're living this so intensively, that I will say, yes, as Americans, we have much more freedom of in mind than many other places. I really will say that. Save Europe. I haven't been to Europe on this journey, and have met a lot of Europeans who are real free thinkers and actually have a lot more freedom than we do. But for the most part, as a developed nation, we have more freedom to create, to self. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. I started to interrupt, and then you were still going. So you talked about the free mind. I think so many people are focused on the physical freedoms laid out before in some ancient piece of paper, when rather looking at this idea of the freedom of the mind, because, you know, it's not just the physical freedoms missing in a lot of places. You're right. It's that even the thought that they could think outside their own perception of beliefs.
Absolutely. I mean, I have, except, and I don't mean to get political, except for the fact that Donald Trump is a forerunner in our nation right now, which, and I'm not just saying this to be funny, it is disturbing to many people, to the majority of the people I'm meeting around the world. Not that they're not only laughing at us, they're literally frightened for the future of the world. They see us as world leaders, and perhaps we've gotten too accustomed to freedom that we've forgotten how important and how vital and how sacred this responsibility is. I mean, it is not just a right, it is a responsibility that we have to the world, okay? This is serious. And I was in Laos, and I have to tell you, couple months ago, I was in Laos about a month and a half ago, and I really loved the people there. I would move there, except for a few. I'm not going to get into the political issues, but it's a communist country still, and the impact of that ideology on the individual, Adam, was really eye-opening as a therapist. Okay, I sat down with a group of young men after spending the day with this monk, a young novice monk. He was 19. And I taught him English all day, and we had a great conversation, smart young man. Later that afternoon, I went and hung out with a group of young men, because only the men were there, because women are too afraid, and they don't really have the opportunity. They don't take the opportunity to go and speak with Westerners. But I'd gone to this program, a nonprofit, to help teach these people English. Anybody could show up. When I say these people, anybody in the community, only the men showed up. So I had about 5 young men, 19 to 21 years old, and they were so great and so engaging. I said to one of them, I said, so if you could do or be anything, what do you want to do? And he just looked at me like he couldn't even, he can speak enough English. He knew what I was saying. There wasn't even a cognitive imprint of what I was saying. There was no relevance culturally for what I was saying. People don't ask youth what they want to do and what they want to be in that country.
It's sorry, I didn't mean to. It's our delay again. Keep going.
Yeah, but there's not even a understanding of that. There wasn't even a cognitive.
Hold up. Yeah, you completely went away. She'll have to sign back in. That's scary to think about. Like, that's what I was saying, is that notion of not even being able to have the thought that you could think about changing what you currently believe. Imagine that existence not even being in your brain or being allowed. And then what she said here is these young men couldn't even fathom the concept of being able to choose what you wanted to do, or choose what you wanted to do with your own life. I think learning that is influential. I think we should take a piece of that from around the country, and she's back at us. And Jill, keep going. No worries. I just talked about how, sad that is, that they can't even have or contemplate or have even the thought that they could change what they think they believe to be true. And just unmute your mic and you're good.
Yeah. So that was eye-opening, and that the work I'm doing, the leadership work I'm doing, the work you're doing, it makes a difference. I mean, just asking a kid and creating the space for who and what you want to do, creating vision. I mean, there was the idea of creating a vision and moving towards that goal isn't even a part of his reality. And that's the work you're doing. That's the work I'm doing. And it made me even more committed to doing it. And I think that's the beauty of world travel, is it made me appreciate not only what we have in our country, whatever country we're from, we that compare and contrast again, but it makes me even more committed to serving the youth and creating an opportunity for vision.
Yeah, you were, I'll go back to something else you were talking about with the teen girls you work with, and the idea of selfishness and how they struggled with it, and how you bring that to light to them with the idea of being selfish in your life or thinking about yourself. Or you also brought up a huge point about, this generation. I'm so glad you say it, because I see it in my 16-year-old daughter, and I just want to make sure I'm not biased. Now I know I'm all right. Is that hesitation to respond. You'll see some of the older generations going, these kids don't even know how to communicate today. And they're right. A lot of them don't, but you're right. I think because they're used to the tweet and how many likes, how many retweets, who responded and what they said. And judgment is very critical right now. They may be more aware about racism or not care as much about those kind of things and see everybody as one, but they're much more heavily focused on the potency of personal judgment within peer groups.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, for sure. There's a whole immediacy to how they're showing up in the world. So I think that what's interesting is this formatting here with you live on video is where we're moving to with media. So there's going to be less of an opportunity to edit and to edit the appearance of, social media has gotten dangerous because for many teens, I'm not going to be all freaky about it, but because I think social media is great. It's been great for my business. It's been great for connecting as I travel. But for some youth, they're really curating their reality, curating it, as opposed to being live and face-to-face with people and having to communicate live. Able to edit their posts, they're able to delete it, they're able to modify, they're able to, especially with photo apps, they're able to make themselves different than they really are. But through the live experience, through video and through the practice of authentic communication, we have to keep that alive. We have to keep encouraging. I think as leaders of youth, we have to keep encouraging them to have authentic communication. Where there's vulnerability, where there's discomfort, where there's imperfection.
Yeah, I would agree. You talk. Oh man, we got our delay. It's gonna get us. Sorry about that. You're right. No. That how do we help them keep it alive? I know we just take it out of their hands, but the biggest struggle really comes from the environmental influence, because even if the phone's not in their hands, it's at the school, it's in the environment. Hell, I'll be honest. You want to talk about transparency? Here we go. Me as a father, did a random phone check last night, and the phone is now mine. And now that the phone is mine, I then was woken up at 6 a.m. this morning to say that, hey, I need my phone so I can go to school. And now I'm not dreaming, and now I'm going to assume that didn't happen, right? And I kind of woke up, and now I have to have this discussion of why my daughter has to take her phone to do schoolwork, because all of this phone is linked to her homework. It's linked to the way teachers respond with them. It's terrible. And I was like, wait, well, look, I don't give a shit what anybody says. I don't care if the class needs it, the phone needs it, or anybody else, if the president needs it. The phone stays here, and you can have fun and go to school, and that's just the way it goes down. And you're right, because it's such a distraction. You mentioned cultivating their own life as they get to piece it together. They get to, well, look, all of it is about what? Tell your story. What's your story? Hell, Snapchat is tell your story. And we so passively, they passively tell their stories with, here's a video, now judge the video, not me, as if they can remove themselves from their own behavior and action.
Yeah. So, I think that wow, this is such a big one. I'm actually speechless. My kids are 9 and 10, and they have their own phones and tools. There's learning. Most important thing is the ability to have live, authentic conversations, right? Live, authentic conversations with peers, with teachers, with parents. And it's it's too easy to, again, curate your reality and it's having a distance from well, people. Okay, this is it. This is the key. We are the most connected socially cohort in history right now, right? As a cohort, as a world, people, population living, but we're the most lonely, right? We're the most.
Kathmandu is one hell of a place to keep a signal. Um, I would definitely agree. We're one of the most lonely. I mean, you see us reaching out in all kinds of ways. Depression is more prevalent here, addiction, eating disorders, etc. She's exactly right. We seem to be more lonely. And look, I don't want to sound like an old fart has been that's saying, hey, you know, those old kids and their devices. I get that time changes, generations change. I'm a firm believer in internet access and connecting the world. It's toppled evil empires. It's exchanged information. Yes, 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 yes. But, you know, with everything, you know, cause and effect, as Jason Crabtree talked about yesterday, is natural. And so we may have all these things, but it's a double-edged sword. If we live by the phone, you die by the phone. And if we live by the interconnectedness, you die by the interconnectedness. And that idea of
Oh, I love that.
being connected and still feeling lonely, as Jill was saying, and she's back, so I can let her continue with where she was.
No, exactly what you just said. I mean, that really sums it up. It's this sense of loneliness goes back to what I said 20 minutes ago about belonging. And but there's always that doubt when it's most of the communication or most of the socialization is happening on screens. There's a sense of what is missing, the sensory, the visceral experience of being connected as humans through smell, through taste, through sense, through touch, right? These are 5 of our senses. When you're on a screen, you're only experiencing visual, if you're on a video, and audio, right? Visual and audio. So you're missing smell, touch, taste, which is how you really experience the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that people have sense, pheromones. We experience those things more than what we see. Look, it's a struggle. I have to stay so focused when I do interviews virtually like this and stay so immersed in what's happening because I don't have those senses, because I can't be in front of you. I tell you how strong my senses are. My daughter's sitting on the couch. I walk by and I catch a scent of a boy. And I went, no, that's a boy. I said, what is that smell? I'm like, that's new. She goes, are you kidding me? I went, no, I smell it. And she goes, I got my new Lush product in last night, and it's actually a guy version, but I like the smell of it. And I literally, it is. It was the smell. She was like, holy shit. I'm like, daddy knows, girl. You know what I mean? I'm like, I know my smell is serious. I might have these glasses on, but nature has influenced my hearing and my sense of smell. But, you know, it's hard to keep connected, right? And even your movement, the visual, I gotta hesitate, right? I see a smile, I see freeze, right? So you try to stay with that. And look, I was explaining how, look, I don't want to sound like some old out of touch fart that's going, hey, your kid's in your music. But I mean, let's look at the realities of it, right? Let's stare at a screen. Let's interact how it is. Just look at the actual realities. And if you're seeing that in the teenagers, I see it in my daughter, is that almost inability or fear, the fear to communicate. They're scared to say anything because of the like, the click, the judgment, because that's what they do. Every time they tweet something, they get negative and positive, right? They get all kinds of shit. And so then I notice it because I travel with these girls on volleyball tournaments every other weekend. And you go, hey, how you doing today? And they look at you like, shit. You know, they go, do I say hello? Do I say hi? Do I say what's up? Do I wave? They give you this look like, oh my God. And again, we sound like old farts, or I do, going, yeah, you know, you don't even know how to talk. But just look at it. It's true. Like you see the lack thereof. And Louis C.K., the comedian, says it best about TV. He goes, walk up behind your kids when they least expect it watching TV and shut it off. And if you see that response and you tell me that's healthy. Walk up behind your kid on the phone and just take it from them and see the response, and compare that to an addiction response of heroin.
Yes. Oh, we do that. My husband does that with our girls, and he loves to do it. He said when he was a kid, he used to do it with his youngest brother, who's about 6 years younger, and he does it. And you are exactly right. Although I do have to say, thankfully, my younger daughter is still so attached to stuffed animals. I think she actually lost her when we were in Indonesia, and it was gone for about 3 weeks, and then we ended up finding it in the bottom of a bag. We just totally thought it was gone. She would have been more upset if it was one of her stuffed animals. I was like, oh, thank God, there's still that little like baby girl part of her. Yeah. But I mean, it's
here's my daughter.
It is.
My daughter goes, well, you do social media all the time, and this is, you're always communicating, and your friends are doing it. This is what you do for a living, right? And I go, as I've encouraged you that you could. I said, but you know what else I do? I have a 2 to 3 hour conversation with 5 to 7 people a week on my podcast. So I communicate directly with people every day in in-depth situations. And she the look when they know they're beat. They're like, ah.
Yes. And I do the same thing. My kids, because I really do. I have an active presence on social media, and I do not poo-poo it at all. I think it's a powerful tool. I love what you're doing. I love this medium. I love podcasts. I listen to Rich Roll a lot when I run. And now you're going to be my right there with me when I run and do those long. Actually, I got a big trek tomorrow, so I'll bring you along with me, okay? But I think that there's so much. I'm not going to poo-poo the whole thing. I'm not going to say it doesn't have its place, but it's around creating authentic and empowered communication beyond the screen, and being in creation of our vision and goals and dreams beyond what is in reaction to what the world is doing or what the friends are doing or what is being asked of us, and I've learned so much, actually. Like I said, this has been my year to really devote to my kids, the original Wellfit girls, my 2 daughters, who have perhaps struggled a little bit with the amount of work I've done over the last few years in launching. I'd already had Wellfit Institute started 6 years ago, but then with Wellfit Girls and Warrior One, the documentary took almost 2 years in the making. The feedback I was getting from family and from my husband was, you need to slow things down and commit to the kids. And I haven't regretted a moment of that with this travel, although I have struggled with is the online schooling, which we've embarked on. And it's been an opportunity for me to reevaluate myself as a leader, because it's not been an easy or natural transition from parent and owner of my own businesses, master of my destiny, to having to follow a curriculum and facilitate that. It's brought out very un-Buddhist-like qualities.
And careful, you're gonna turn into your dad.
Let's just say, it's been really tough. And then it's been an opportunity to be like, hey, this isn't my first choice, but how can I still rise to the occasion to facilitate and lead, in this uncomfortable territory as parent, teacher, leader, and also to look at education, because some of this is like really like it's not necessary. Oh,
sorry, I thought you were done. Again.
Yeah, no, I am done.
I had to know, a lot of parents want to do what you're doing. Let's just face that. They strive to that. What are some of the things that people don't know about traveling with family and your kids as you go to, and after that, after you talk about what that's like, give us the specifics on this journey, like the days, the times, what you were doing, get into that too, please.
Okay, say that again. I kind of lost you for a minute.
Yeah, I was talking to how a lot of people, they dream of traveling the world. Many parents dream of traveling the world and taking their kids with them. But what are some of the hard parts about doing that? What are the less romantic notions to traveling the world with your kids, etc., as you homeschool? And then after you kind of talk about that, I'd really like to know what are some of the specifics about this journey? I mean, how many days, how many places, how many marathons? You know, what was the itinerary, if you will?
Well, that's a really great question. The main thing is there's actually a few Facebook communities out there. They're private, and you have to actually be traveling and meet a certain criteria to be invited into them. So it's a network community for families way of, and it's eye-opening. Some of the more humbling experiences is around the education. I told you I was homeschooled. I swore I would never homeschool my kids. In a lot of ways, I didn't feel completely prepared. I ended up going to prep. Really did not get the hours in I needed to get as a young learner. And I am, thankfully, I'm smart. I don't mean to be like, hey, I'm smart, but I did really well. I was always a A+ student. I went to great schools, all that thing, but I'm definitely not patient. I'm not a sit down and follow the rules kind of a person. And so that has been a huge challenge for me. And because I'm still blogging and running my companies, Wellfit Institute, Warrior One, and the nonprofit Wellfit Girls, when they sit down to do schoolwork, I want to do my work and I don't want to be bothered. And it just doesn't work that way. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I posted a blog. We're friends on Facebook. You've seen me. I've been much more active on my Twitter, my Facebook, and my Instagram because I can do that quickly. But my blogs, whoa, like it has been humbling. I've had to put that aside and be an educator as well as a leader in my kids' education. I've also had to be an advocate because this one professor kind of chewed me out, like, you are way behind and they need to be, up on this level. We ended up putting them in an online school. The fantasy was that we were going to educate them on our own. But the rigmarole, especially in Boulder, Colorado, where we live now, it's really difficult to prove that you have a curriculum. Now, because I have a master's in psychology from a school of education, I could have gotten permission, but I would have had to write a curriculum. It was like it was crazy, the amount of work. So we are following an accredited international online school. But this guy's telling me, you haven't done this, this, and this. And so I wrote him this letter. It was my first sort of FU letter I've written in a long time. I was like, oh. And I just wrote just the last 5 countries we'd been to, and the historical sites and the religious sites and the significant cultural experiences they've had, the Landmine Museum, CNN Hero of the Award, CNN Award Hero of the Year honoree, his Landmine Museum and all this incredible stuff. And I was like, is that enough for you for history, buddy? Like, really? Sense of, yeah, we have to check off the box, but there's no comparing to what they're learning. And they can speak more than 10 words in 12 different languages right now.
Right, without being yelled at about where's your homework, where's your stupid paperwork. Right. You know what? Fuck him.
Oh, we had words. But then again, there's a side of me that unfortunately I made my husband do it because I was like, whatever, writing a blog or something. He ended up, getting her up to charge with it, whatever. It took hours and hours and hours. And not that it's the end of the world, but I do have to say what they're learning by experience is incredible and far and above beyond. But, I have to tell you, I had some fears going into this, and I just texted a friend about it yesterday. I had these fears, silly fears now. My biggest fear going into this trip, 2 fears, were bed bugs and lice. Okay? And since then, I've had dengue fever, personally. I've had like two major gut problems.
How
My
bad?
daughters had,
How bad did the fever get? I mean, that's not
it was
nice.
bad. No, it was really bad. Like
What'd you go
really
through?
bad.
What'd you go through? I know. What was that like?
Oh, well, it was such an interesting experience. It was really, when you talk about the power of the mind, I was in Indonesia. I was in Ubud, which is gorgeous. It's like the yoga capital of the world, really, and such a groovy place. Incredible Whole Foods and the best vegan restaurants, and cold pressed juices everywhere. They're delivering it to your hotel. I mean, it's just a paradise, right? After traveling for so many months. And I was training for the marathon, so I was getting up really early in the mornings. And I'm that person that doesn't ever get bit by mosquitoes. So I say. So I never put bug spray on. And because I was getting up pre-dawn and running, for 2 hours, sometimes up to 3 hours in the mornings, I was getting the dengue exposure, which I didn't know that dengue was a daytime mosquito. Most of the malaria is in the evening, so I didn't ever think of my risk in the mornings or in the daytime. So still didn't know. But when I was in Ubud, I decided to do a healing cleanse to stir all flesh.
That was great.
So I go, this is awesome. I go to the best Ayurvedic health clinic in Ubud, world-renowned natural healer. Fantastic. I start the whole cleanse off with the colonic. Things are just going to be amazing. I'm going to be a clean machine, right? Day 1.5, my legs start hurting like you don't even know. Like I've never had pain like this in my life. So legs are really hurting. She goes, oh yeah, that can happen with a cleanse. It's just, detox. It's okay. And I'm saying, okay. And I'm thinking, wow, this is just more than everybody else. 4 other people were doing this intensive cleanse with me. And I said, do your legs hurt? And they're like, not really. It's more my head and my stomach, whatever. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm training for a marathon. I'm getting all the toxins out. Like I've got it in my head now. I've self-diagnosis. I had some, myofascial injury. It's from the cleanse, right? It's from the running. Another day later, I'm crippled. I can't even walk now. And I can't ride the motorcycle. I rented a motorcycle the whole time I was there. Can't even ride the motorcycle because I can't balance. I can't stand on 2 legs. So I'm lying on my back with my legs up the wall, yoga pose, Viparita Karani. And I'm feeling like a total asshole, like a wimp. Like I'm like, okay, this cleanse, I was thinking I was going to be running through this cleanse. I'm messaging the cleansing lady. I'm feeling like that, cuckoo American. She's like, no, it's all good. You're just cleansing. So I continue. I drink my juices, wheatgrass, coconut water, green drinks, everything you can imagine. Days go on like this. Then the fever is so high. But again, I'm cleansing. I'm researching it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm having a cleansing reaction. You can convince yourself of anything. Let me tell you. I finally text my friend in the States, and she says, oh, I text, all I said was, I'm dying. It's New Year's, by the way, New Year's Eve. My friend had visited with us from the States. My husband, my kids, they're all out. They're partying. It's New Year's. I'm in bed with a fever. And I text my friend, I said, I am dying. She said, no, my love, you're being reborn.
Oh,
I said, I don't know. I think I'm dying, but okay, I'm being reborn. And sure enough, it just went on for days and days and days. And then I even traveled with this high fever. I don't know how many people I could have exposed if, the mosquito bit me and then it bites someone else. So finally, I go into the jungle and I'm struggling. I mean, I'm barely functioning. I hadn't eaten in 6-7 days at this point. Not a bite. Lost 10 pounds. And but I wanted to go into the jungle because I'd gotten special permission from my friend who's a researcher, and I was out at her orangutan research station in Borneo. This is like as badass as it's ever gotten in my life. Forget big walls. I'm like in the jungle, 6 hours deep by car, by 3 hours down a river in a banca boat, like a tiny little canoe, hiked in an hour. I mean, it is like as remote as it gets. And next thing you know, I look down at my legs and they're hemorrhaging. and I've got these capillaries, red veins coming all the way up my legs. And I'm like, I say to the guy, I was like, could I have gotten bit by something? I say to one of the scientists, and because the only people out there are scientists, they've never had lay people out there. And he looks at it, he goes, yeah, when my girlfriend had dengue, that's what happened. And I was like,
Oh shit.
I got dengue, man. And he goes, no, you'd know if you had dengue. You couldn't get out of bed. I go, I haven't been out of bed in a week. I said, I really rallied to get out here. And sure enough, the next phase of torture comes along, which is itching palms and itching soles of the hands. It's the weirdest, the hands and soles of the feet. And, basically I survived it. And I just talked to a travel doctor while I was trekking in the mountains. And the good news is I'm as immune to dengue as I will ever be for the next 4 more months. So she said, travel to more dengue places because you've got immunity for about 6 months after you've had it. So there you go.
Well, maybe there's just a place you're supposed to be that you can go, but girl, you are lucky as shit.
Yeah.
Not that shit's lucky, but I mean, you're out there in the middle of nowhere. That's where you die. That's how it happens. Just like that. You get bit.
Yeah. And I haven't met one person. As you travel now, we talk about, the war stories, and everybody I know who's had it does go to the hospital. But I have to tell you, the thing that saved my life, ironically, was that I was on that cleanse. Because I was so cleansed out, I didn't get the typical, everybody gets the diarrhea and they can't drink fluids. I was so well hydrated, even though I was still thirsty and drinking as much. I was so hydrated that it saved my life. So that was good. It really took me out of my marathon training. I was out for 3 weeks, but it was also a good lesson in the power of the mind. Is I had that one little insightful to my friend when I said, I'm dying, like it didn't feel right. And I kept saying, something's not right. But I was, being told by this healer, again, even the most well-intentioned healers, as you know, you're examining and revealing the ills of the pharmaceutical company. These people that convince us of a way, we start to believe it, and then we fall into it. My deepest down intuition was something wasn't right, and I didn't listen to it.
Wow. That's talking about, learning to yourself. But it was about pushing yourself because, girl, I was going to say after 7 days, you had to rally to get out of bed. I'm going to say that's an understatement with the rally to get out of bed. Yeah. I don't know how you superwomaned out of bed that day, but I'm glad you made it back from that. And we took a right turn off of that into your fever pitch there. I mean, that's scary. That's dangerous. That changes lives too, that you get through that and find places. But to the specifics of your travel, when you set out, did you have an itinerary? What was it? Did you set out to run all these marathons? What was the goal, if you will?
Okay, that's a great question. The main goal was connection with family and kite surfing. I'm doing the 6 world major marathons, but I was only originally signed up for Tokyo actually on this trip, and any other marathon that came along. So there will hopefully be a couple more during the trip. I actually, one of my greatest disappointments of recent was I was signed up for Tokyo, which I almost didn't get to do. I was able to do that. It was amazing. 6 days later, I was supposed to do Bhutan. I ended up again in the hospital with some flu. I got like a 24-hour flu 15 hours before the race. It was such a bummer. I've never ever had to pull out of a race. And I picked up the race packet. I was psyched. Like there was only, I think, about 100 of us running the whole marathon. And this national marathon is only their 3rd year. The Princess of Thailand was running a half marathon. But I was flat out. I mean, I was like, yeah, I don't throw up very much, and that's all I was doing for a good 10 hours through the race. I ended up having to go to the hospital. So I missed the Bhutan marathon. Might have been a blessing in disguise because of the trekking, which we trekked in Bhutan last week, right after the marathon, and then also this week in Nepal. I'm actually dealing with a knee injury right now from the really pretty intense trek the last few days. So it ended up working out, even though I was disappointed. So fitness, trekking, mountain exploration, kite surfing, those were the main goals of this journey, as well as cultural exploration for the kids. It's a huge undertaking. You're asking, and I'm going to be real, it is not an easy task planning a year-long trip. It's actually going to be 10 months when all is said and done. We were really smart. My husband's actually done a lot of the legwork with the flights, because once you can have a skeleton of flights, if you can, the best way to do it, if anybody wants to do this, and I'm happy to talk to any of your listeners who want to email me, message me, Facebook me, whatever, because it's a complicated process. But if you can afford to take the time and the money even to find, we have a great travel agent who specializes in round the world travel. We didn't buy one ticket, because if you buy the round the world ticket, you're really locked in and you can't lay over. So we've changed so much since we've traveled. Like, we weren't going to go to India. We just decided a month ago to go to India. We wanted to go to that, but because of the political challenges with China, they closed their borders because, it's not a good time for Tibet. Let's put it that way. And China doesn't want you to see what they do to them. So we couldn't do Tibet, so we added China. We did not add China. We added India. We are adding Dubai, because we met a great guy in the Philippines. And we cut our time short in Indonesia in order to go to the Philippines. So we've really changed a lot, but we had the skeleton from the beginning of, the basic route we wanted to go. And if we love someplace, oh my God, French Polynesia, we started there. It was really hard to start in French Polynesia. Let's put it that way. I do not recommend it. It's like, finish there. It's just so fantastic. It's hard to start there. But after a week on an island there, we decided to charter a sailboat, and we sailed all around the islands. So things like that, we're like, oh, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Okay, let's blow our budget within the first 2 weeks of being gone.
Oh man. So well, that adds.
But there are certain things. There are certain things that we knew we were going to do. Like, you have to book the RV in New Zealand ahead of time, because they run out. And there are certain things we haven't been able to do because we didn't plan enough in advance, which is fine, because we'll find other things. But definitely anybody who wants to ask more about this, the main focus is culturally conscious travel, and kite surfing and adventure. And we're really off the beaten path type of people. So we look for really unique experiences, boutique experiences. We don't do a lot of travel guided stuff in Bhutan. You have to. And it ended up being amazing. We went to a friend of a friend who's now our friend. And we take our time. We ask questions, we connect with people, and that's the best way to do it.
You're dropping knowledge to them. I love it. I ordered the book Vagabonding, but I'm yet to get it or begin it yet. But perhaps here in the next couple of years, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. You may be inspiring me. I was sitting here thinking about you, and I was kind of going, maybe when my daughter graduates, instead of just rushing her off to that college or whatever, we all just disappear for a year, and we all go away for a while. But I mean, so much of what you're saying is great knowledge that people need. I know actually 2 people in particular that have just started their travel blogs and have opened up themselves. And I know they're going to listen to this show and go, thank you, Mrs. Jill Wheeler, for all the knowledge that you're dropping there. Man, I love that. I was, again, wishing I had my pen, to write down, but I want to lead in to, we got about 15 minutes before the podcast shuts down anyway. So I was deleted. You ever seen that part where you start to say something like, nope, that's not what I was going to say. If you could go back to your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
Oh my God, that the number one advice I give to myself is you are enough as you are, but you could always do better. And I love that you're enough as you are. That doesn't mean complacency. Stick with what you are. That means, again, acceptance and moving forward into greatness, stepping into greatness. Enough as you are, stepping into greatness. Good enough as you are, stepping into greatness. I injured myself a lot in my 20s. You asked, that's a perfect time because that was my personal revolution. I wasn't listening to my whole self because I was trying to prove greatness that I wasn't ready for yet. So instead of just accepting my body with its at its level, say, just one example with rock climbing, it's a great metaphor. I was pushing beyond where I was, not respecting where I was. And basically, in that created a lot of injury and a lot of pain. So what I would say is you can't reach the top step without starting with the one you're on.
Yeah. Dropping out in that's man, we are weird. This is if I pulled up a thing I wrote down the other day about, you know what, I'm gonna have to prove myself, otherwise I sound like a pretentious asshole. Right? I'm serious. I don't know. I tried to make this note about whatever it was, but uh, heroin right. People are listening, going, "You're not gonna find it, right?" And here I am trying to find it, but I talked about that's so weird, man. I just very briefly about we may hate that stone or step that's in front of us, that's right above us, and you're going, motherfucker, why are you so high or so far over there? Such a pain in my ass. And then when that stone then becomes the stone you're standing on to reach up to the next one, you so much appreciate it, especially more so on the way down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
man, we are just A to Z, A to
It
Z.
becomes a point of pride instead of the obstacle of oppression, right? It becomes the point of pride as opposed to the obstacle of oppression. And that is the crux of what I'm trying to teach, not even trying, what I'm creating as an opportunity for learning with the Wellfit girls, with even my daughters. Oh my God. Okay. I don't mean to sound like all hunky-dory, like Partridge Family. We're having one big love fest, because honestly, like sometimes I just want to like run off the mountain away from my family when I hear my daughter like, do we really have to go that far? I'm like, God damn it. I have a bad knee. I just ran a marathon. Like, I just want to throw down all of my complaints at once to shame her immediately, right? But it's like, okay, taking a moment,
I
these
picked Jill going, you know what? Off the mountain, right? And I asked the question a while ago, what are some of the downfalls about traveling with family? And you were building up to it about the homeschooling, the fever and every other thing that you caught along the way. But then that one, I think, nailed it. That one nailed it. There's times where I'm just going to jump off the mountain.
Oh yeah, or like run away. I'm just like, I'm out. Like I can't even hear your voice right now. Like seriously, and there's only so much like positive, blissful, ignoring you can do when you're finally like, shut the hell up. You are having a good life. I take photos. Truly, yesterday, I took a damn photo of these two little girls carrying a bucket heavy as shit of the whole entire family's, geez, it might have been the whole village's laundry for all I know. The moms were, on the side of a dirt road path doing the laundry in a waterfall coming down the mountain, right? Because it's finally a beautiful day. It'd been cloudy for days. And the little girls are younger than my daughters, 7 and 8 years old, maybe, tiny little things, carrying, both of them struggling to carry this bucket full of wet, heavy laundry so they can hang it up. That is what they're doing. It was a Monday or Tuesday, actually. They were not in school. They were carrying wet, heavy laundry in a bucket down a dirt mountain path to their village. I took a picture. My daughters were like ahead of me because I was limping with my bum knee. And I showed it to them at dinner. I was like, yeah, basically you have nothing to complain about. It was like they were complaining about school or who knows what it
First
was.
world problems. We said it yesterday. First world problems, man. I was
Oh,
somebody tweeted a comparison meme yesterday with Kim Kardashian and somebody else where she no, not Kim, it was the mom. I don't know the name, but she said the meme was like, sometimes life gets so frustrating. There's always 10 cars in the driveway and 10 strollers in the garage. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then underneath it was a picture of someone holding out an empty bucket for water, and you're looking at that going, I'm sorry, there's always 10 Mercedes in your driveway. That just must be totally frustrating for what you're going through, man. And we see that. And then I'd ask you, how much do you think, though, is that? Here's the double-edged sword again. Greatest strength, greatest weakness in reference to the internet and access again. Do you think that because they can see pictures of this, they know about these problems, they know about starvation, they know about the lack of access to everybody else, and do you think maybe seeing it and having all that access to it somehow numbs them to this idea that, yeah, I see it now,
yes,
but I've seen it online, so
yes,
whatever.
yes, yes. I think you're right. And I think what we have to show is our own vulnerability, and not ourselves being inured by it. We had dinner tonight, believe it or not. It's pretty intense with a girl who's a victim of the earthquake. Now we're talking less than a year ago here in Nepal, and this man that I met through a friend. She's a travel writer. She'd been to Nepal in October, 8 months ago. And when we were coming, I really want to support the local community. We don't tend to be poor people, but we want to go out into the villages, and I want to do some rebuilding. So actually, that's where we're going tomorrow. We're going to do rebuilding in a Sherpa village called Junbesi in Nepal. And like hard, real labor. This man that my friend connected me to is a tour guide operator. So we hired him to help us organize these mountain journeys for us. So he invited us to dinner tonight. So we had dinner with him, and he actually invited her to his house the first night we were here last week. So we had dinner with him there, and these two young girls are living with him and one of his guides. They're raising these girls from the village. They lost everything. And one of the things she lost was a leg. And he just told me more of the story, her story tonight. But my girls have been hanging out with her now 2 nights with her. And they had a lot of questions, which was really, really good. But I worry about that they're going to see it and they're going to be like, okay, I see it. I've seen it. I've experienced it. When they get home, thank God for my easy life. That's my only fear. I don't think that's going to happen because we're not going to allow it. But really, what's happened, this is the real deal that they're seeing. They are experiencing these people not as statistics, but as real, living, struggling human beings. And they're sensitive and they care. And yet they're still just teaching her to play Uno, just like she's another kid. So, there's that interesting duality of, yes, they know that they're different, and they also just treat her like any other kid, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, they can definitely be amazing, that those generations, and when they see it, I think I was, really pointing out the fact that they're so inundated with, violence, sex, etc. And I say it again, here I am sounding like an old dad with a 16-year-old saying, oh, the music today, the TV today. It's just as graphic and sexual as it was back then. I'm gonna say that, but the access to it has changed. The easy access to it has changed. Hell,
Yes.
we had those influences, I could find the porn or the thing if you wanted to, you could find all that. But, this generation is just tap, tap, and there's a dead body. Tap, tap, and there's someone shot bleeding. Scan through Facebook one day and look at all the, world star type videos, all these YouTube things to where they're watching people executed. This is what's out there, and people become numb to those things, I think, and we can lose our spirit, we can lose our focus in it by having to numb ourselves out to that reality of it. And you immersing your kids in that, tons of research and everything else shows, but it's also practicality, just to look and see that, of course, experiencing that is going to bring that to their forefront, and it'll change their lives, I think, and impact them probably for most of it.
I think you're right, and I just finished today actually a book about the very serious and real human trafficking, child trafficking problem here in Nepal, in Kathmandu, and it's as recent as 8 years ago that these horrible stories were happening. I mean, the kids are like 19, 20 now. Most of the kids that this real story is about, and the nonprofit that was created. And I read it the whole time I was trekking. And as we were driving through Kathmandu today, I was literally crying. I couldn't stop crying because these little children, all of a sudden, I had an awareness as I was driving through Kathmandu last week that I didn't have. And I just saw children on the street children, and they were coming up to our window and begging and just sitting there. And you could see the man behind them. It's real. The man behind him, they're probably working for him. And it's huge. And I have my kids. One child started reading the book today after I finished it. And yeah, it was really, it's poignant, it's real. There's just still a lot happening in the world. And I do believe I'm growing leaders that are going to come back and make a difference. And I asked them, I said, do you see all this? Does this matter to you? Do you think you would ever come back to make a difference? I know I'll be back to Nepal. I will be back to make a difference. This is just dipping my toe in. This is a powerful place, and it's really touching in ways that I wasn't expecting. But I also know, and I'm grateful for the fact that it's touching my daughters, just like I know Wellfit Girls is touching those girls. And that is all I want. I don't want to be a hero. I don't want to be known as a leader. I just want to instill a seed that's going to create something positive for the next generation.
And you're doing that. And, we got about 4 minutes before we turn into a pumpkin, but, you almost spouted it there, but sometimes I ask the direct question anyway, it'll bring out, some of those new things. And first off too, I want to thank you for doing the show and coming on too. But, what is your life philosophy to date?
My life philosophy. Well, without sounding too rote, something that resonates continually with me, and it's like a mantra, is create vision, practice wellness, seek adventure. It also happens to be my tagline for my company. And I have to say, my company is an extension of me. The work I do is my passion. And it's not just the work I do with my career, but with my family, and becoming unified and becoming one with what I think, what I believe, and what I say, and what I do. So it's all in alignment. And that's really it. Creating a vision, practicing that vision, practicing it in a well way, and seeking adventure along the way, and being open to new experience, and new ideas, and new influence.
Oh, I think I fell in love today.
Awesome.
I mean it now.
Come on the journey.
I'm always in. I'm down. We're going to have to take one soon. I'm going to be getting notes from you too when we take off on our little thing.
Yeah.
You may have sparked something in me, and I had to go grab the other marker, but it sounded like you were spouting something I was going to have to write on our cave wall here for knowledge. And that life philosophy is generally what we end up writing up there. So if you would, I'm taking the headphones with me. If you'll spout to me what it is you want me to write and sign for you on the cave wall.
Sounds good.
Undo our camera too. Hello, everybody.
Oh, I like this one. Hi, we're moving. We're on the move.
Give you the whole cognitive cave. If you're in here, you can get the whole experience when everything's loaded up. That's my native pictures on the side. But sometimes the camera won't reach all the way to where you can make out all the words exactly. But it's pretty.
Oh, I love it. I see it.
Yeah, all of it is just signatures from one end down to the other of everybody that's been on the show. So what I'm going to try to do maybe is post this up here. There you go. And you tell me what to write, and I'll write it.
Okay, create. Are you ready?
I am.
Create vision. Practice wellness. Seek adventure.
Yeah. And I'm going to try to sign it how I think you would sign it.
Wellfit Jill. Wellfit Jill.
Wellfit Jill. Done. You have been added to the cave wall. And
Love it.
see if I can connect this back in here. Oh, man. All right. Are we back in the groove again? And we are. And I love it. Create vision, practice wellness, and seek adventure by yours truly, Wellfit Jill. Oh, I still got you there, right?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, please. Now give out all the shout outs, all the people you love, all the thank yous, all the hellos back home. Run down your list if you got to. Hold up a book if you wrote it. Put out all your handles, taglines, .coms, where to find you, all that stuff.
Okay, well, I'm currently writing. I have about 7 blogs that are backlogged, so don't lose hope. Keep going to my blog, jillwheeler.com. My blog is there. Follow me at Wellfit Institute, which is on Facebook. We've also got Wellfit Girls, which is our nonprofit leadership program, and we head to Peru in 4 months. Wellfitgirls.org. Hey, we're always accepting donations, and we've got some great sponsorship opportunities nationally and locally. So definitely check that out. It's such an incredible immersion program. Definitely inspiring and leading the charge in a unique way. Warrior One Movie. Go to Warrior One Movie on Facebook. Also Instagram and Twitter for all of those. The movie's going to be out on iTunes soon and or on our website. But if anybody really wants to see it, message me and I'll give you a private link for sure as a special thank you to having me on this show. Wellfit Jill on Twitter and Instagram. Follow our journeys and for sure reach out. I'm happy to connect with anybody who wants to head out on any inspiring journey, be it across the street or across the world. I'm here. I really love connecting with people. And I'm writing a book right now. The tentative title is Run the World.
That's what you're doing. Well, what I'd like to do is when you get back, how much longer you got on your trip here?
After I lead, I've got, just so you know, I've got a really exciting expedition to Peru along with our Wellfit Girls. I have a women's expedition going for the first time. My amazing leadership team, Colby Robertson, Andrew Moranti, and Amy Vocal are leading Wellfit Girls. And Andrew's got his own business, Innate Fitness, and many other ventures. Check him out. Coach Andrew Moranti. He is such a great leader, motivator, and inspiration. So he'll be down in Peru. We're bringing women for the first time, and we've only got a couple spots left. My partner, Linda Banashek, and I will be leading that yoga, spiritual, transformational journey to one of the most incredible places on the planet. So I will be back in the States in July after that trip. And if anybody wants more information on that, just contact me directly at jillwheeler.com or jill@wellfitinstitute.com.
Perfect. Any friends, lovers back home? Obviously, no lovers, you're with them, but friends. Anybody else? Anybody else you just want to put out there and say hello to?
I miss my mommy so much, and family, friends, everybody. I'm so grateful to have a team. My board of directors at Wellfit Girls running the show. It's just such an incredible, humbling and beautiful process that I could take this time on sabbatical to be with my family and know that the program is being run really, really well. I'm grateful for them and all my friends and family, you know who you are, my husband for co-creating this world journey, for sure.
Well, when you come back from it, I'd love to do a trip report with you and your husband. That would be fun to have you both down. Maybe even the little ones running around you. But let's do a trip report. Maybe if you get back or if your book comes out, I'll tell you, Jill. This mic is open for you whenever you need it. Whenever you want to promote something or say hello. But yeah, I'd love to do a follow-up trip report with the whole family.
I love that. Thank you so much. I'm going to take you up on that for sure.
Yeah, I got some questions for the little girls out there. I got a couple for them.
They will reveal all, let me tell you. They might be bordering that empowerment versus overly empowerment. I don't know if that's possible. Entitlement, I hope not.
No, man, they're just little narcissists at that age, man. That's all.
I will never tell them they're being selfish, okay?
Hey, that's why I said narcissist.
Exactly. All right, thank you.
Jill, thank you so much. I look forward to the trip report. Be safe wherever you go. Watch out for the mosquitoes. Spray the bug spray. Keep teaching the people around, loving those people and serving those out there. I'm sure some people are going to be following you after this. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Namaste from Nepal.
Namaste from the Cognitive Cave.
All right.
Bye-bye. Take care and love you.
Thank you. You too.